What up, peeps? It's your girl, Dosh. Come back to Normal Takes. Well, it's the time, you guys. It's reaction time. This will be for Netflix's The Night Agent. This will be for episode 2, titled Redial. Now, I enjoyed the first episode, being introduced to the gentleman named Peter, who is working, of course, at the night desk at night. And normally with that, never rings, but in this instance, we deal with a situation where finally the phone does ring, and it's a woman by the name of Rose. She gets caught up in a situation where she thought her aunt and uncle dealt with acquisitions. Clearly not. Definitely, work for the government, and unbeknownst to her, able to get away. She's given these codes, call this number, and that's when she's introduced to Peter. We're dealing with a situation where there's a lot that doesn't kind of seem. We're dealing with Peter with his own, personal situation, with something that happened to his father. Then we're dealing with this aspect of happening because it's like a year apart with the incident at the beginning we see with him on a train where somebody leaves a bomb, setting it up and all that. He gets into a scuffle when the guy shows back up, thinking he would probably most likely cause more damage, but unfortunately one casualty. And with that, him and his scuffle, you see what looks like to be some dragon tattoo. So that's one little key part. I'm curious to get a little bit more insight into that. Then we're dealing with individuals who show up at the home of Rose's, aunt, uncle, and she's, asked to leave in the back way, call this number, go over to the neighbor's house. With that being said, we also see another point where we come across what looks to be, want to say, a guy and a girl. Uncle, aunt are killed. She calls a number. They are able to show up, and then in the instances, we're dealing with some other characters that we get introduced in this named Diane and Hawkins. Hawkins played by Robert Patrick. I'm a little iffy on him. My radar's going up a little bit, and it's going to stay there until I'm proven wrong. Needless to say, when you hear from what Rose says in regards to her aunt and uncle and was listening to them saying there could be some sort of mole inside the White House, so right there she's kind of inclined to not really trust anybody. She goes along with Peter because at this moment she has no one else she honestly can trust, and he is the one that kind of guided her when she was hiding from the intruders in the house, and the cops initially did show up. Definitely getting into a scuffle, on the road after he gets to his place, get her, some change of clothes and set up so he can make his call to Diane and kind of let her know what's going on, try to keep her in a safe space, unbeknownst to anybody know where they're at. But then of course dealing with the car, they're on this trail. Then we see with someone who has a ring, so that's another key thing. When they end up getting into Peter's house after he gets to an Airbnb that he has set up through another, I won't say, was it a friend or a family member or a friend, I couldn't recall. But needless to say, that's another thing. So we got a guy with a, looks like some sort of dragon tattoo on the side of his back, side of his body, and then you have this person with this ring. Then we see this couple. I already recognized the guy because he's the one that pretty much recognized her when she stopped in the middle, trying to get to the house to, get some help. Show up with this baby, this woman, and I'm sorry, there's no one. But see, back in the day, people did that, just welcome people to their home. Like, oh, I used to live here. I'm like, okay. I'm like, oh, okay, oh, that's nice. You're not still coming in. That would have been me. I hope, look at it from outside, from afar, take care, but welcome then. And that was the demise the girl needed. But clearly from the picture, because they scoped on that, where it looked like her husband and their 2 kids. So I'm assuming the husband is definitely somewhere involved in this. So hopefully we'll get to see, what transpired, with this. Is this all culminating to one particular situation or narrative? So that's what has me intrigued. Like I said, I love the first pacing of the first episode. So I really want to see what's going to happen with Peter keeping Rose alive and getting, her somewhere safe, because they might think she knows something. She might have heard something. Not to think that she was told so much intel of anything, but again, those was her aunt and uncle, so they're not going to assume anything but. So with that said, so let's go ahead and jump into it. I'll say those my thoughts at the end, you guys.
What made you think you could succeed where many women hit roadblocks?
I am so sorry. There's a call.
Can it wait? Who is it?
Lawrence Fenster.
Want 7.2 million in Bitcoin, or they release our proprietary technology online, which will sink us.
There must be some mistake. 1 second. Look, it's Adam. Let me in. Adam, what did you do? Look.
I don't really believe that you were involved with this, but I don't think you're being honest with me either. Now, you want to find your killer or not?
Of course I do, but that's your goddamn job.
You didn't tell them what you saw last night?
No, you know why.
What's your plan here, Rose?
To stay alive as long as possible.
Hey, we're gonna get these guys. Believe me.
The fact that they had their niece call night action Means they were working something off the books.
The Campbells make any enemies when they were working for the FBI?
No one would do this to them.
How do you know?
Because that's not how the game is played.
We're wading into very murky waters here. Are you ready to do whatever it takes to get to the bottom of this muck? To keep Rose Larkin safe?
Did you know Hawkins used to be Emma and Henry Campbell's old FBI handler?
What?
Yeah, it's actually really hard to find, but I recognize his initials on both sides. Yes, go ahead.
Peter, is that you?
Rose?
Yeah. I can't sleep and
What? Girl.
I remembered the number.
It's obviously worth killing for.
Rowan told you have to kill her.
What the actual fuck?
Satisfied? It's all taken care of. How long have these people worked for you?
Been over 8 years. Excellent results.
I'm so lonely. All the time. Especially now that they're gone.
Excuse me. Where are the Secret Service agents that were here?
They were there earlier.
What's happening?
We have to get out of here right now.
How'd you get in here?
They cut the power. The lock on your door.
Housekeeping!
You're late again? What a surprise.
Where would they be then?
Rose!
There you go.
Rose, you need to steal that lady's phone.
We won't let my friends know who tracked us, right?
Yeah, right.
Will someone track us?
Somebody booked protection detail off of Rose's hotel. Yeah, we're both almost killed. It's the same guys before.
We both saw his face. What's the power to authorize that?
President, myself, Ben and Nathan here, Director Willett, and
Deputy Director Jamie Hawkins.
Peter, where are you? We'll send someone to pick you both up.
Not until you can get this shit under control. I'm taking care of Rose. Sure you want to do this?
No. I haven't told you everything yet.
What do you mean? Haven't you told me?
They also mentioned some files and an engineer. Maybe they hit them here.
Look, the FBI and state police were all over this place.
But my aunt said that there was someone in the White House who couldn't be trusted. She said that there was only 7 days till it goes down.
Oh?
Patience.
I don't like losing.
Yeah. Change your plans. Need to put you in motion.
When?
Now.
Security, what you do?
This isn't ordinary security or second or third level. My aunt acted like she couldn't even set up a modem, but this has national intelligence level security that I can't even get around.
Rose, what the hell were your aunt and uncle doing investigating that?
I don't know until I can crack it, which I can't do without serious hardware.
Sure.
The order was issued from a computer in his office. A farmer found him in a field in Maryland.
Damn.
Murdered.
Oh.
He killed the deputy director of the FBI.
Shot him in the back 6 times.
We found a hard drive.
Rose's elbow quarter hiding it.
You can't get into it. It's encrypted.
I
I think it has something to do with the metro bombing.
Peter, this is an order. Come in right now and bring Rose in the hard drive with you.
Alright, you guys, I enjoyed this episode. I'm loving the pacing of it, just getting right to it. With this one, we kind of see a little bit more information of who might be behind what's going on with Rose and what happened to her aunt and uncle. With this one, I'm wondering what exactly was her aunt and uncle working on that they're hiding, but now we get a little bit more information on that, because I was wondering, with us knowing a little bit about Peter's background, if by any chance it might tie together, and it looked like it's starting to tie together. With us seeing, Peter trying to make sure Rose is going to be okay, and of course they have to put some sort of, security detail on her, and of course the guys who work for that particular department, gets it all set up. She stays at a hotel, whatever and all, and he goes back to, pretty much doing his day-to-day working as a night agent. Now, we do have a problem where at the end of the last episode where Hawkins, and Diane are trying to get some information from Rose, but she's not going to be as forthcoming. She said, it's like, I'm not going to go in there and tell them everything, and then after that, if something was to happen to them, well, at least we know all the information. If something happens, sadly, she's another casualty, but they'll take it from there. Hence, you see how she, gets into it with Hawkins, and, rightfully so a little bit, because like I said, my radar with him is up. And eventually, things turn out, well, okay, we're going to put some detail on you, go to the hotel. He tries to make sure she's set up and all that. And she's like, well, I'll see you again. Probably, most likely not, but he'll make sure she's taking her care, while she's there. But I like how in the end, you can see him setting her up with some books and all that, something to keep her mind from not thinking or overthinking about what's really going on. But she wanting some answers. Not realizing, I didn't truly know my aunt and uncle to know that they had somewhat of a double life, and they working for the government. And then with that being said, we do see the main guy from the first episode, and then definitely the young lady who, of course, went to that house, killed the woman, found some information, and pick up something like a bag or whatever. And I was wondering if it's something, that ties in with that, which I found really interesting, because I'm trying to figure out where that entertains into the overall story narrative. Hopefully it'll become a little bit more of a real exactly why. But one thing I can say about him, he's definitely more calm, collected. I'm about to talk about the two hired, killers. The girl, a little bit of a, not say hothead, but definitely hot-wired, where she's all about just, getting the kill, doing what she needs to do. Like, they're on their way to, to go to wherever they're being told to go to. Drive a little too extra fast, gets pulled over, and she wanted just to deal with the cop, but he's like, just maintain. He's like, show your driver's license and registration and all that, and take the ticket. And she went on and did it. Now, if he was not in the car, she probably would have killed him, and it's like leaving a trail. So an instance of that, but then they get a call saying they know. This is where I'm wondering who this gentleman is. They showed his face, but then we did see one person open, speaking with the guy. His name is Gordon, or across from somebody who's obviously somewhere in the loop of the government, but they have not shown them in the first episode. So this person is totally, might be more closer with the president's aspect, so we don't see them in Diane and Peter, and not definitely Peter, but Diane not being more aware. They're all setting up where in this particular episode you're thinking it was Hawkins, because I really thought it was, and he probably played a small part, but it kind of escalated, got out of control, because they cannot seem to tie up this loose end, which is considered Rose. Now with Rose, before I get further in, I'm interested in what happened in regards to her collapse of her company. You see how they went back 3 months ahead, and shows how when we see in the first episode her losing, everything and all that, the decisions that need to be made, she can no longer do it. The people, who are the investors, nobody wants to be bothered with, so everybody's kind of like just threw her out there to the wolves. But you hear a name of a guy when they're in the room checking the data, and she's like, Adam, what are you doing? What is he doing? So hopefully as time goes on with the next, amount of episodes we're dealing with, we'll see a little bit more backstory with what happened with her business. Does this part tie in too? Because she was dealing with cybersecurity. I'm curious about that aspect as well, because that was definitely instrumental in that first episode with them bringing her in, like she was getting ready to do some sort of interview, being, mic'd up, and all that, and then some. Of course, when she did the interview with the woman, while she got that call from, I'm assuming, I don't know if it's a part owner or an investor, like you've been hacked, this and other, and the girl sitting out there kind of listening in, that's very interesting. And being that she was, she said one of the first, females, dealing, Silicon Valley, whatever, in this particular area, what makes her different, because they were thinking everything's all wellness and beauty care. And she was like, yeah, okay, but needless to say, fine, whatever. But yes, I was really taken to that particular scene with her from her backstory. Now, I will say, going back, seeing how her detail was removed, somebody signed up on it, and of course the shows look like it's Hawkins, but I like how they pretty much had Hawkins do it. He of course shows up at this house, and then they deal with him, so they're kind of covering their tracks, because slowly people are kind of figuring out something's definitely going on. They're thinking it's him, but they kind of threw him out there, so now they're going to be up in arms wondering who, because you see Diane get him some papers to find out about the aunt and uncle. Come to find out, Hawkins used to be their handler. He was the one, I'm assuming, to set up certain things they had to do for whatever the work that was being, given to them. So that means he's known them for a while. So whoever is, above Hawkins is making sure there's no type of information that can tie to them. And that's kind of what I'm getting thus far. Loving that, because I'm still trying to send this person. He's like, he's all freaking out, whatever, about this. But then it brings you back to what happened on the train. Because when you see, in the instance of Rose remembering to tell Peter about some other stuff that was talked about, she only told him about the part where they thought of some sort of mole in the wires. She didn't go into more detail. And if you saw the first episode, you saw her walking towards the ramping of the stairwell to come down. She was listening in a little bit before she came down there to kind of, speak to her aunt, like, what is going on? Why you have a gun pointing at me? So in the instance, she's like, I think I have an idea of what, they might have something, let's go back to the house. But then she's like, maybe when she's kind of going back through what her uncle said about the drive, the woods, she finds that there's another home they had, that they used to kind of get away. And they say, okay, we need to start looking around, see where my uncle or aunt could have hidden whatever information, something that could be helpful. They found it, of course, attached to the fireplace on the side. Open it up, but it's encrypted. But the thing that's the key here is the part in regards to the coding of the folder. It says 2781, and that is definitely one of the scenes where you see Peter, when he's seen all the debris, when he, the explosion happens, he finds that little number, which I'm assuming that was the name of the train number for the one that had the explosion. So, okay, I'm thinking, might be out there, but I'm going to just say what I'm thinking overall. Her aunt and uncle might have had something, along lines, to do with that, but they definitely weren't the one that did the part with setting up the bomb. But I'm curious, because he was on there. Were they trying to get rid of him? Did his father know something? Because, they tried to make it look like, he was not a good guy, being probably in, his particular, government position for however long he was and all that, supposedly a traitor, this and that and other. And I feel like there's some stuff that his father, so we might get him to do some, flashbacks, or finding out some stuff his dad might have put aside to help him somewhat clear his name, because before he can clear his name, of course he had the accident. So that's bringing me back to Peter, and that's kind of where it stuck. So it's like it's tying in her aunt, uncle now with Peter and the situation what happened to him on the train. So yeah, I like how it's all intertwining a little bit. So it's just I need a little bit more information on who is this gentleman who's sitting across from Gordon, all kind of somewhat, freaked out, wanting, Rose to be handled, deal with this, get him, and then, the guy and the girl being set out, to go to the hotel, doesn't do it. She's pissed because she does not like to lose, as she put it, and all that. And now they've been getting some other orders to deal with. Now Hawkins is out of it. He's been killed, so I can, take him out of the fold. But at first I will say this. He played a part a little bit, might not to be an extent, but he was someone involved. That's why he wanted Rose to spill, and he was frustrated with the whole situation, because he was probably reporting back to whoever that man was in instance to that. So I'm loving where this is going. I like how Peter was like, no, we're going to do this my way. You told me to protect her at all costs, so he's going to follow. Even though Diane gave him an order, in the end, she's probably not happy, but in the end, she knows it's probably for the best. So act like you don't know what he's doing, and just play along. Those two other guys who were in there, who deal with the, Secret Service, they're unbeknownst, to what's really truly happening. They just know that somebody removed their detail from her, cutting off lights in hotel and all that. So here we are, and now they can't really trust too many people. But I can feel like you can trust Diane. Peter does. Rose doesn't trust her, but it's like, eventually you have to deal with somebody, because if you want to get that open and encrypted, you have to find a way to do it. Hopefully she knows some people who can help her, and we'll see that hopefully with the next episode moving forward. So a great episode. I so enjoyed this one. So with that said, you guys, comment below, let me know what you think, and with that said, I'll see you guys in the next reaction. You guys take care.